What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful night or day. Welcome to Expeditions Rome. This is a game that's coming out tomorrow on the 20th, and I was able to get early access into the game to go through its storyline and gameplay and make a video based on what I've done. And today I'd like to talk about some tips that I can give for how you can survive in the world as well as excel in the world even to the best of your ability. One thing I want to talk about first is the highlighting mechanic. So just like in a game like Divinity Original Sin 2 or Baldur's Gate 3, for example, you are able to highlight items on the ground as well as available chests that you can open or characters that you can talk to, for example. And in this game, you can do this by pressing left alt. Now, it's very important that you do this because you always want to make sure that you're able to get loot, especially when you get to the first combat scenarios. Any and all loot that you can get on the ground is going to be super useful to you. You want to make sure that you don't miss anything. And while you're traveling throughout the world, having this highlight button on will make sure that you can find any hidden compartments or pathways where you can find rare goods. Like, for example, when you get to a temple in Greece that you can explore, if you go to the northeast section of the map, you can go down a ladder to find this legendary bow, and this will help you quite a bit in battle. This is also something you can utilize while traveling on the map. As you can see, if you press left alt, it'll highlight all the different zone borders as well as points of interest, buildings, resources, anything like that. So you always want to make sure that you're traveling with highlighted mode on. And don't forget that you can rebind this in the settings menu if you need to. The second tip I'd like to go over is how you break the enemy army in the open world and how you can do it quicker. Now, spoiler alert what happens later on in Act 1, but you will be getting access to a Roman army, a legion that you can command. You're going to be getting access to what are called centurions, which will lead your army forces, as well as Praetorians that'll be embezzled in your party and can also substitute your main companions in exploration and battle if you want them to. The centurions you see here are going to be the ones that are leading my army, and I can choose any one of them to be the commander of this battle when the battle encounter takes place. From this menu, and even before you recruit them, you can see the available perks that each one of them has and specializations that will help them in different circumstances. For example, this character is known as Reckless, which means that his aggression will be increased by 20%, but his defense will be decreased by 10%. So if I'm going to be in a battle where I'm attacking, which is exactly what we're doing, this will probably be a character more suited to that scenario, whereas if I was defending, I might choose a character like this guy, who is actually known as being cautious. Alongside their perks, you can also see their survival chance as well as their success chance in this menu. This is something to look at because of course you want to make sure your men survive, but also more than that, you can look at the manpower retained and the amount of loot that you're probably going to get as a result of the battle. Insubordination has to do with centurions that don't really like you. They might not like the way that you interact with the legion or other people in the open world because there is an affinity system and your choices do matter. So if you have a centurion that's kind of pissed off, you would see this amount get increased. Once you confirm it, it goes into this menu. So the battle starts off in formation mode where you can choose which one you'd like to use, and what you do here kind of determines the expected casualties that the enemy will get as well as your own. Now when you first get your legion, you probably won't have this amount of army strength or manpower. That's probably going to take a little bit of time because you're going to have to replenish the legion using money, and also you won't have access to these various strategies that you see here. Maniple channels you'll probably get as well as protected flank, but the wedge one you won't get right away. You have to construct what's known as a workshop at your camp, and this is something we'll go into on the next tip. But what the workshop does is it allows you to get new stratagems that you can use during the open world battles. So the main thing when it comes to breaking the enemy army is you have to get their army strength below about 1200. So each of the different strategies can either reduce this or in some cases keep it at the same number. I'm going to go with wedge because it looks like they'll lose about 200 units at that point, which will be good for me. So this is what it looks like when the battle is actually in play. It's not very detailed as far as the animations go, it's just these cards moving towards each other basically, but you can see various things play out during the round, such as our legion losing manpower based off of the skill checks or theirs. So because I'm attacking, I want to try to get my aggression up a little bit higher, but we don't seem to have an option for that, so I think what I will do instead is probably go with square formation, so I don't reduce my aggression and I don't lose any morale. Now if we go ahead and auto-resolve this again, this is what we call a random encounter. This doesn't happen all the time during battle for the weather changing. What you can do is get access to new types of strategies. I'm going to go ahead and go with your own effort. This will cause some of my legionary to go missing, but I'm going to be decreasing the enemy manpower as a result. And then we have our victory screen. As I said, you probably won't get access to strategies like the infirmary tent right off the bat. You'll probably have give chase though and show mercy. Since we're just barely over that 1200 line, I'm going to go ahead and give chase, and that should cause them to fully break. So what happens is that when you fully break the army, you scatter them. This means that the army will be fully destroyed instead of running to their allies and joining up with them. What that means is that if you attack a lumber mill or a mine that's controlled by the enemy and it has like 1,400 people left, if you don't scatter that army, they may run to the nearest settlement, and then you'll have even more people to deal with when you do finally attack that objective. So after that, you come to the status screen. As you can see, I gained some experience. I didn't lose too many of my units, so that's also good. And then you get the battle loot right here. It also shows that the enemy forces were fully destroyed, so I don't have to worry about them any longer. And that's all there is to it. Now, the next tip that I can provide is that in combat, you'll always want to consider using unarmed combat alongside your regular weapons. Now, one thing you'll notice very early on, especially when you're using characters like Cineros, is that when you switch to his unarmed combat, you can actually utilize healing. And this can be done without a bandage being available in your tactical slot. Now, he's not the only one that's capable of utilizing unarmed combat, and what I mean by that is that there's certain skills that you'll see other people being able to use that you might not have really known about. For example, the other day I was playing on Cassio and just randomly decided to switch his weapon really quick to see what other options I might have in combat, and I noticed how he had a skill for intimidation where he pointed his finger at somebody and he could reduce their morale. Now, when you reduce their morale, this means that they might have a really high chance of running away or acting sporadically, like even attacking someone that's on their team. So this is extremely useful in the middle of a fight. Another thing you can look at is if they have a skill like this called tackle, and what this allows you to do is potentially knock someone down. This can be a game changer, especially on the harder difficulties, because if someone's knocked down, then of course they're not going to be able to damage you, and you can knock down most targets, but if they have any armor or shield strength left, you'll probably want to burn through that first, and then attempt the knockdown just to make sure that it works properly. So make sure if you can to always check their unarmed skills too, just to ensure that you don't miss any opportunities. And you might also want to look at their skill menu and adjust which skills they have in combat through the interface, just in case you see one that looks better than the other. And the very last tip that I want to give is you want to make sure to set up your workshop and forge as soon as possible. In your camp and even outside of it, you're able to look at the upgrade menu, and it's very important that you start working on these upgrades as soon as possible to benefit your legion. What I like to do is focus on this bottom tree, going with the barracks into the armory, of course, like you'll probably need to regardless, and this will allow you to start crafting the baseline equipment as well as tactical items that you can use on your journey. If you come over to the forge building, you'll notice that when you open it up, it'll have different legendary items that you can have access to. There will be a tutorial when you're first getting to this part, but what you have to do is dismantle your companion's baseline equipment, and then you'll get special items that you can take to this menu and craft legendaries with. Each item will have special effects that benefit your companion, so it's very crucial to look at these as soon as possible. You'll normally get the resources by dismantling equipment. Just make sure you dismantle anything you don't need, and you can do this by holding down right click while hovering over the items. And then for the tactical section, crafting these pilums as well as bandages will help you a lot in combat, and you can refill these at your legatus tent, which you'll also want to get built as soon as possible. When you go to it, you'll notice that you have the opportunity to refill these tactical items, and every time you assign someone to it, you can actually get a certain amount of refills for free. And different items will be very useful to refill for free, such as the Greek fire jars when you actually get access to them, but I would make sure to use these whenever you can just to make sure you're always stocked up on these items. But with that, folks, that's all the tips that I have for you so far. Hopefully these help you out and you enjoy your time in the game. Have a wonderful night or day. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.